Cachemaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Welcome to Geo Gearheads episode 421. I'm already having problems with my numbers.
Just keep all the numbers the same. It doesn't matter what order they're in. 124, 241, 421.
This is just, another one of too many Geo Gearheads episodes to count. How's that? Does that work? But it's going to be our very first episode on gearing your Cachemobile.
Ooh, I like the Cachemobiles.
Yeah, well, and we've done so many of these episodes on gearing your bike, your off-road vehicle. We did the RV stuff before. We've had so many of these episodes that we've done. And when you said, hey, we should do one on your car, I was like, haven't we done that?
Not quite. Not quite.
Never.
Now, what about we'll do a motorcycle and a horse next.
Ooh. Actually, didn't we do a motorcycle?
I don't recall.
I don't know either. But I am Daryl W4, back again with Chris of the Northwest.
We should introduce ourselves. Hi.
For this weekly show that's usually about geocaching and sometimes, more often than not, about us getting really crazy and getting into all kinds of rat holes.
We get distracted easily. So we thought we should have a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Isn't that what everyone who gets distracted does?
Yes.
And speaking of distracted, we have a nice new shiny souvenir coming up.
Ooh, fun in all directions.
Yes, and this is our news item for today. So, distract it and throw it into the news item all at once.
This comes from the geocaching.com blog. And it reads, forward, backwards, inside, and out. With over 3 million geocaches worldwide, geocaching is fun in all directions. That's why we're celebrating 02022020. Or should I go with 02022020 there? It's almost binary, but not quite.
I know, it's a little bit disturbing almost.
It's an international palindrome date. Now, this is Sunday, February 2nd, which is that Super Sunday. I don't know if we're allowed to use the term.
Yeah, no, it's the big game.
The big game. There we go.
Right. Which I had not put that together until just now.
Yeah. Well, because you're not a football kind of guy, Daryl.
No, but we were just talking about the big game like 4 hours ago.
Oh.
Not even. And I just put that together. And I saw this news story like 8 hours ago. Probably not even that. Put it in the show notes, noted the date and time. Then we were talking about the big game a couple of times since then, and I still never put the two together.
So all you have to do on February 2nd, 2020 is find any geocache, any adventure lab, or any event. Basically, if you find anything on that day, you'll earn the fun in all directions souvenir.
So it's a lot of fun, literally. I'm happy to see this one.
However you look at it.
Yeah. No, I'm just excited to see this one because it's not that often that we get these funny dates. And they've done stuff for most of the others. But I hadn't even thought about this one because it doesn't quite work out to be so cool this time.
Exactly. My son said, when is the next time we're going to have, like an 11-11-11 or 12-12-12? I said, it's going to be a long way off.
Yeah, I don't remember how long it was going to be, but yeah, it was really, really long.
Let's see. So could we do 1, 2, 3, 4? No, 5, 6. No, maybe backward. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's actually get into the show on, or I should say our topic on stuff for your Cachemobile. And we had Bounce who wrote in earlier on Facebook that said his must-have items for the Cachemobile are the laptop to write my glow-worthy logs and a good flashlight.
Nice.
Now, the glow-worthy logs, I don't think applies to this show. So
Not this show, but
we shouldn't have brought it up at all. Sorry, retract that. Forget we said anything.
Nonetheless, if you wanted to write everybody loves a good log. You can be in your laptop, write that nice log. So
yeah, and I do have a cool little folding keyboard that's actually something to talk about for my phone.
Okay.
So this is really handy that it's going to be a visual thing, so I apologize for the audio listeners, that you can just fold out and it turns into a full-size.
That's a decent-sized keyboard.
Yeah. And it is not bad to type on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit wobbly.
Okay.
But this was actually one of the picks because it's like, I want to say it's like about $20 on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's a nice little tool to have with you because you grab that, write up your logs while you're having lunch or whatever, waiting for your server to come to the table. Just a nice tool to have with you. And it's
so as you're warming up after that long, cold geocaching hike at your favorite coffee shop.
Yeah. And
your second favorite coffee shop and away from your third favorite.
Doing your puzzle solving, all that kind of stuff. It's just a really, really nice tool to have for not a lot of cash. That said, I don't use it all that often.
Now, Daryl, I will cheat. This is a full-size keyboard.
Yes, it is.
But it's Bluetooth. So connect with your phone or with your tablet.
Yes.
So it doesn't fold, so it's not convenient for travel, but being full size, it's really nice to, be able to stick on a table or maybe a hotel desk.
Well, and likewise with the tablets and stuff, there's all of the cases that will give you the keyboards. And even for the phones, there's actually some of the phone cases that will have those Bluetooth, or some of them even have actual physical connections. But any of those kind of things are really handy to have with you for doing those logs.
Yeah. Francis says that will help type in your Earth cache answers, because some of those can be quite long, those Earth cache answers. So
absolutely. And one of the things I like to do with the Earth caches is I'll do just Apple Notes, but any of your favorite notes apps will work. OneNote, the Evernote, which I used to use but don't anymore. Get bumped or drop those in there, but do the voice transcription.
Okay.
And it's a good way to get the basics in there. You'll have to clean it up, but it's a great way to get started. And then you drop in a couple of the photos, get everything together. And then again, you take that back, you do the write up at the coffee shop or whatever and send those in. So much easier than trying to do it from the phone, and certainly easier than trying to do it from your GPSR.
Exactly. So all of that's going on. Now, as the one thing I thought about, the first thing I thought about, I should say, on a Cachemobile is the tires. Make sure you have the proper tires for your adventure. If you're going on a long road trip, make sure you got highway tires on there. If you're thinking, for me, there's not that much snow and ice here where I live, but we can drive to the snow and ice, which makes it really nice. So, street or highway tires don't work very well in the snow and ice. There, you're going to want your snow tires. You don't want studded tires then when you come back, to rip up the roadway.
Well, and they do have the chains and stuff that are required in some locations, so you have to make sure to have that.
Yeah.
But again, you don't want to put those on your regular highway tires.
No. Now, the tire shops around here have a deal. They'll let you buy chains, and if you don't use them, you can return them at the end of the season.
Nice.
So if you go up to the pass and it says chains required and you do not have chains, you will be ticketed and your vehicle will be towed. I mean, they're serious about that. So if you need chains, you have to have them. Now, I just saw a news story on they've got, you remember the actual chain, like chain links, that you put on. And then there's cable chains. Those are what most people use these days. And now there is tire socks.
I think I've seen those actually.
They're elastic and they slip right on over your existing tire. and with chains or cables or these tire socks, they're only designed to go about 20 miles an hour.
Right.
The tire socks are going to wear out quickly. And, of course, once the roadway clears, you need to stop and take off whatever traction device you've applied. But, the socks look like a good option. They're relatively inexpensive, but they're not, super durable. They're going to last for a couple of trips. No problem. But they're easier to store in your trunk.
I was going to say the thing that I remember seeing was that they kind of roll up and create this nice little thing that you don't have to worry about as much.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So,
anyway,
if you've got those snow tires on your car and you're planning a long highway trip, your gas mileage is going to suffer. You want to put your street or highway tires back on for that.
Right. And I was going to say, we're talking about the snow, but the same thing kind of applies if you're going off-road. Don't use your street tires off-road. It just doesn't work. And, that's, again, you have to have the appropriate type of car. But if you're trying to go, like we've got sand dunes around here, you will
not the best place for your Prius.
No. And you will dig yourself a hole pretty darn quick with all kinds of vehicles doing that.
Yeah. I've been out on there's some beaches here that we can drive on in Washington State. And I've been onto it with 4-wheel drive vehicles. And, if you get off of the main track, you can bog down pretty quick.
GSM times 2 hates the chains. He says, once you've thrown a set of chains into the axles, you will never use them again.
Yeah.
Which is also a advantage of these socks. And even the cables, I thought were supposed to be better about that.
Yeah, the cables that's what I have tire cables, or cable chains they're referred to as. And they're fine. You have to lay them out, drive your car on them, and then hook them up around. So it's, 2 people makes it very nice. And, it's no fun being out there in the snow and having, vehicles zip by you as, you're off on the side of the road getting your car chained up. And really, once you start driving, you're like, I don't want to take these above 20 miles an hour. I mean, just listen to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they can damage your paint, around the fenders.
Oh yeah.
Have them attached right. So,
yeah. I don't like, and I've never had the chance to use them. So
yeah. Now
I can't talk to them much.
In a sand dune. If you went out, and had the wrong tires,
the sand crawling that I've seen is always special tires on like Jeep style vehicles.
Okay.
Full off-roaders. And most of the time they look kind of like balloons. Like your old-fashioned balloon tires. But I have seen some that are a little different. And if you get into like the construction style vehicles, a lot of those will have the tires that are built for that. They're not built for the speed, but they're built for crawling over that kind of stuff. And if I remember, those are mostly liquid-filled tires. They don't even do the pneumatic tires. So you don't have quite the same kind of stuff. But sticking with the tire theme, you always want to make sure that you've got at least the supplies that you need for taking care of like a flat. Usually that's going to be changing the tires. But on a lot of the newer road cars, you're not going to have that spare. It's going to have some kind of run flat or the sealant.
Okay.
Yeah, like my car. Yeah, my car has a pump with the sealant that it comes with.
Okay.
They don't give you the.
You don't even have a donut spare.
No, you can buy a donut spare if you want, and I keep thinking about it. But at the same time, I've thought about every time I've had a problem with a tire in the recent years. It's always been more dramatic than I can take care of with a single donut.
Okay.
So.
Oh, wait. What do you mean? You like multiple tires?
Yes. I've had multiple tires go on a couple of occasions. I've had a couple of times where, not on my car so much, but where I've had like CV joints go.
Okay.
And pop the tire at the same time. So,
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you have then for your tire changing.
exactly. So, I haven't had that much trouble with it.
White Coaster says, for the cost of taking off my snows just to drive on the highway, I'm leaving them on until spring.
Well, that's probably not so much the actual snow tires, I would think, as the like winter tires.
Yeah.
Because there are a difference, or at least there used to be, between like your winter tires and the actual like snow tires.
You can get a mud and snow tire. You can get an all-terrain tire.
Right. Well, and I have the all-season tires that I keep on mine because I'm not going to take a Kia Soul off-roading.
No.
Yeah,
and
that
really
work very well.
Yeah, and you're not. If I remember right, your work isn't that far from your house.
No,
So
no, it's like 20 minutes.
Studded tires don't help you.
Well, and we're not even allowed to have like the studded tires in the state. You can't do that until you get off the roads. But one of the things that's kind of interesting was I had like regular highway tires on the vehicle when I bought it that are built for high fuel efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Come the first snow, they clogged up and iced over. So I had absolutely no control.
Nice.
So very first snow, nearly brand new tires, less than 5,000 miles on them. I went to the shop, threw them in the dumpster. Basically, they recycle them, but
right.
What do you recycle on a tire? But got all new tires on them, and it made all the difference in the world. So make sure you have good tires for driving around. I love fuel economy, don't get me wrong, but it's not worth the safety.
Yeah. But if you were going to do ET highway, those tires with the better fuel economy is going to be great for that long stretch of highway.
Well, and even the all seasons that I do have are the fuel saver tires or whatever they happen to call them. They're the harder rubber, which makes them better for the fuel economy, but they don't grip as well as like the soft ones do. So, there's all kinds of nuances to the tire design.
And that's where your local tire shop will be able to help you.
Absolutely. Work with those guys, especially if you have a car that's common enough that they'll know.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing when I go in and talk to these guys. And I'm not talking like your big chain stores, but your local stores. They know so much about the tires from other customers who come in with the complaints about them.
And since we're still on tires, make sure you've got, if you have a spare tire, right? It may not be a full. On several of my cars, I went out and bought an extra rim and got a full size spare just to have. But with that, you got to make sure that it's pressured all the time. It's got good air pressure in it. Where these donut spares are solid rubber, you don't ever have to worry about it.
All right. Ian says that his Jeep sucks on fuel economy anyway, so just off-road tires on it year-round. Works great in all weather. I kind of know how that goes, except for the leak on the soft top when it rains.
Oh,
which is one of the reasons why I've never gone for a Wrangler.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm past the age I want a convertible. But
I still want one.
It rains a lot here in Washington, and I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, understandable. But I still want one. But I want one with the express mission of finding a caching trail, a power trail, where I would have to get out of the car and we could just like stand up and pick them off the trees.
Oh,
that's why I really want a convertible.
And that way you can be the grand master of a parade.
Oh yeah, there you go. White Coaster says that he has the all seasons, but puts the proper snow tires on for the winter.
Nice. So getting back, if you have a spare tire, make sure you have a tire jack. Oftentimes I've known people who like, oh, I don't know where it is in my car, or I've taken it out to use it somewhere else and didn't put it back. Make sure you have a lug wrench or tire iron. So There you go. And you can grab that can of Fix-A-Flat, or I believe the other product is Slime. It's
Yeah.
a 20-ounce bottle. You just squirt the whole thing in there. It's usually going to be able to get you to a tire shop where you can get things fixed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that you can drive on, but it's about the same as using a donut.
Right.
Now, the only drawback to using some of those is I've heard people have had problems after they use those tire sealants.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a bad puncture, it will still make the tire like wobbly enough that you don't want to reuse it.
It could put a big chunk in there. I've also heard that it actually damages the inside of the tire.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It can eat that a little bit and make it,
That said, I haven't heard any such problems in years.
Yeah.
So it could be that the ones still on the market are safe, but just something to keep in mind that it had to been a problem previously. Do your research before you get into it. I'm not worrying about it much since this is what the car's manufacturer does. And so many cars are doing it exactly the same way now. They just don't do the donuts as much anymore, mostly because it takes so much weight and actually does affect the fuel economy.
Mm-hmm.
They're that desperate to get fuel economy up in these cars.
That's true. Well, so while you're sitting there changing your tire, perhaps your family's in the car, listening to the radio, charging their cell phones, and playing games, and suddenly your battery's dead.
Well, and jumper cables are always the cheap, good thing to have with you, and can help with some of those gadget caches as well.
Yes, they can.
But I've got one of those batteries that does the jump start.
There you go.
And I've actually used it a few times, gotten them as gifts for nieces and nephews. And I had a niece that put it to the proper test. She's used it at least 7 or 8 times.
And
they
it's
work well.
one that plugs into the cigarette lighter? Or
no.
The terminals.
Yeah, you never, as I understand it, you never want to use the cigarette lighter. That will work on some of the older like trucks, but almost anything since the 80s, if you do the cigarette lighter thing, you have a good chance of frying some of the electronics.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so that's a bad idea. Now, the nice thing is you can, with most of those, get a good feeling for what the charge level is. Through the cigarette lighter. But putting that kind of power back through the cigarette lighter, not a good idea. And most cars have some kind of protection, and usually ends up frying electronics. So always use the clips and charge, and then jump start it the right way.
Yeah. We'll jump back to that. Get that? But Ian says it's a good point. If you get a new car, familiarize yourself with what kind of spare you have. Some cars only have the compressor with sealant in it. I was unpleasantly surprised by that in my wife's Malibu the first time she had a flat. So,
yep, absolutely. So yeah, most of the dealerships will go through a starter course for you when you pick up your car.
Right.
But
don't rush through that. Take the time. Learn all the ins and outs of your car.
And I'm bad because I go in knowing most of that stuff ahead of time.
Right.
But I still go through, and they kind of like and hate me at the same time because I've gone in and shown them how to do stuff.
No, this is how it's done. Wait.
Well, especially when it came to the CarPlay and Android Auto on this car. And I had a whole bunch of questions about how to put the car into, because it's my first keyless car. So I had a whole bunch of questions about how that worked, and they had to actually go ask people in the service department for answers. So,
nice.
Yeah, I'm one of those at the other end, but I know so many people who pick up the car and go, I went through this whole 2-hour lesson on how to use a radio, and I still can't figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, back to jumper cables, or some way to
jumper kits. Yeah.
Now, Daryl, those batteries that you buy, they can be charged USB, and they actually do have USB plugs on them, so you can use them to charge your tablet because they should be quite high amperage.
Yep.
or phones, of course. So they're good to have in the car for that reason. But you plug in a separate lead onto that, and you can attach it right to your battery terminals.
Right. And don't get one of the smaller ones. There's been a few that I've seen that are like under 3,000 milliamp hours. Those aren't going to be enough to do the job. Make sure that you're reading the reviews and what they can do. There are a number of those out there that don't really do the job, but I highly recommend getting a good one, if nothing else. And there's some that will have the AC inverter in them as well. So you can actually run, you can run small electronics. It's not enough to do
a laptop, maybe.
Yeah, a laptop,
not a hair dryer or a microwave.
Correct. Correct.
Well,
you know,
popcorn.
It's enough that you could probably charge some other devices if you had to run. I've seen people run blenders off of them for tailgates and whatnot.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good margarita when your husband's out changing tire or putting snow chains on.
Yeah, well, but the other thing that's nice about
make a margarita right now.
The other thing that's nice about having the emergency power like that is it's emergency power.
Yes.
If you do happen to get stuck, you can use it not just to charge the phones and things like that, but also run little lights and whatnot. And there's some pretty cool USB lights that we've seen for camping. There's your power supply for that too.
There you go. And the next thing, this should be obvious to any American. Duct tape.
Yes, and there is a difference between duct tape and gaffer's tape, which is what I tend to carry.
Yes.
Duct tape tends to work better for the emergency stuff, just so you know. It's not going to come clean, but it works better.
No, yeah, gaffer's tape is better if you want your car to look good afterwards. But if for some reason I was out on a trip, Daryl, and we rolled down a window and it would not roll back up. It rolled up and it fell down. I was able to pull it up. I duct taped the thing in place until we could get home and I could fix it. It just simply had come off track, but that's not a roadside repair I want to do.
No. Well, and I knew someone else who did the same kind of thing where the window rolled down and got off the rollers or whatever, but it wasn't continuing to fall down. So they took the duct tape, attached it to the window to pull it up till they could actually grab it and slide it all the way up.
Nice.
So yeah, handy thing to have. And I've had shattered windshields where I've actually duct taped the windshield. Not a good way to drive, but it got me safely to the So don't duct tape the windshield, but if you absolutely have to, it keeps it from shattering.
If you were really good, I bet you could make a fan belt out of duct tape.
I don't want to try that, especially because in most cars, you don't have a fan belt anymore. It's a serpentine belt. Yeah. And I don't know that I'd want to try serpentine on duct tape.
Oh, come on.
I'm not that adventurous.
Okay. Another one is a gas can. Now, if you run out of gas, AAA, if you have AAA, that's the best way to go. Right? They're going to bring it to you. Yes, you're going to pay for the gas. So there's going to be a charge, but they'll get you going. Most gas stations will sell you a gas can, at full price. I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. I may be exaggerating, but it depends on how far out in the boonies you are. And then, put a little gas in it until you have to walk back, and it's a lot.
Yeah. And another thing, it's not just AAA that will do this for you too. A lot of the car rental services, if you're doing the rental cars, if you've picked up the additional coverages, will do it. Some will even do it without. Check which.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, which you have. They'll usually charge you for the fuel. Sometimes at a little bit of a premium, but at least you have that coverage. And of course, there's other services than AAA that do it as well, including, you'd be surprised how many new cars come with like a year to 3 years of the roadside assistance for free.
Oh, there you go.
Someone was telling me that they got into a similar situation where they ran out of gas because the fuel gauge was broken on their brand new Cadillac, and they came out and filled the tank.
Because they've bought the North Star system, Daryl.
Essentially.
Let me tell you about the North Star.
But yeah, they came out with like a 5-gallon jug, filled it up, and then they drove the car back to the shop and filled the tank for them when they got it back. So all covered under warranty, including the loaner and everything. That's an expensive car, and I want to say it was like an Escalade, but it's check what you've got when you get a new car. You'd be surprised at what they're throwing in, because it really doesn't cost them much to do that once they have the network of dealers.
Right. I want to add that if you have a gas can, don't keep gas in it in your car.
Absolutely. And even if there is no gas, it will still have some vapor.
Yeah.
So, be careful with that. It should not be in the car.
Another thing would be a gallon of water. Now, you might want that to drink. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But if your car is overheating, having a gallon of water will help as well.
Yeah. And I always keep extra water whenever I go on caching trips. That's drinking water.
Right.
But more and more often, we're realizing that you do want something with you for caching. I've come across a couple of times that unexpected gadget cache that needed some water.
Oh, yes.
And not always is a gallon going to do it. So I rarely carry more than a gallon of water with me. But typically what I tend to do, in large part because I'm cheap, is grab the like Camelback Eddies are my favorite water bottles. Grab those as my like regular bottles, and then I'll take some of the higher capacity what is it, Nalgene? Is that how it's pronounced? Water bottles. Or lately I've been going for the double-walled steel thermos style bottles. And those are just nice to have because it keeps the water cooler without needing the ice. And you just leave it in the back, grab it if you need it.
If you're going to do the ET highway, fill those bottles up with ice.
Oh, yeah.
Grab some extra water. You could just pull ice cubes out of it all day long.
Yeah. Well, and the ice will melt into water.
And cold things cold.
Yeah. Well, the ice will turn into water, and that's one of the reasons I don't like doing the water or doing the ice rather, is because the volume of ice is substantially less water.
Right. Now, okay, so my son is a lifeguard, and he sits out in the sun all day long. So he'll take 2 bottles, one with ice and one, and actually he can get water there, but it's not cold water. So he takes out a couple of ice cubes, puts it in his water. He has cold water to drink, and those ice cubes last all day, even in the sun, because it's a vacuum sealed bottle. Heat doesn't affect it.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'll tell you, my hot soup and my popsicle, I put them both in there. It didn't work. So it didn't keep hot things hot and cold things cold.
Rolling back to the roadside assistance, Ian says, definitely recommend some form of roadside assistance if you're planning on driving your Cachemobile on trips frequently. Some insurance companies have the roadside assistance you can get on your policy for a very tiny price.
Yeah. And I love Wet Coaster. We think alike. Handy for carrying a cup of coffee and a popsicle. Sorry, I don't drink coffee, so
preferably not at the same time, because it doesn't sound very good to me.
That becomes a latte at that point.
Well, it does, maybe. That's not so much the popsicle as the ice cream bar, though.
Okay.
Then you have your mochaccino. Another one that you have on the list here is the fire extinguisher. I don't actually tend to carry this. But
I haven't had one in my car in years. I used to. Back in the 80s, and I kept it under the seat, and I don't know, one time I checked on it, I was like, well, I wonder how long this has been dead. It was no longer charged. So they're not that expensive, and it might be a good thing, especially if you're going to do the ET highway, right?
Yeah, well, and you never know what could go wrong. It's always nice to have something like that.
I just was watching a video of, somebody car broke down and their car caught on fire, not yours. So having that in your car can help someone else.
Yeah. Not that a little, first aid style extinguisher, or
Right.
it's first aid, but the little tiny, yeah, is really going to help with anything major, but it's going to help if you see something more minor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I keep going back to trains with the overheated bearings that we actually did have to run into.
Oh, I was thinking of trains, planes, and automobiles.
No, we did have some bearings that it actually wasn't the bearings that were overheating. It was cinders that were, I think, creating little brush fires, and we had to go and stamp them out.
Interesting.
Yeah, but in any case, but the thing that really got me thinking with this one is we used to use flares all the time.
Yes.
You almost never see flares anymore.
No, you see the triangles.
The triangles, and they have the glow sticks are a big thing. Or what I actually got in mine was this cool kit from Amazon deal of the day that I found one time, which is kind of a triangle, one of the pop-up triangles, but imagine it as a telescoping cone with a blinking LED light at the top.
Nice.
So there's all kinds of stuff like that you really should have for any time you break down, but I still like the flares. I just don't like having them in my car.
Yeah.
I know those things burn a little too hot that I don't want.
Don't put the flares and the gasoline right next to each other.
No.
Make sure they're on opposite sides of the trunk.
Well, and when I first started driving, you almost always knew that the gas can or the gas tank was literally right there next to the what's it called where you put the spare? The tire well.
Oh yeah. It's usually
which is where you put the fusies, and I just got this nasty feeling every time I thought about having the flares in the trunk. What's going to happen when they burn through and ignite my gas?
Johnny Cash says cars just don't catch on fire like they used to.
No, but I have seen a few of them lately, which makes this all that much more scary.
What was it? Was it the Pinto or the Gremlin that would explode when you rear-ended it?
The Pinto was the one that was known for it.
Yeah. Okay.
But there was a whole line of those.
And the Pacer.
The Gremlin, Yugos.
Oh, really?
Remember those? Yes. They would have all kinds of, they wouldn't explode when you ran into them. They'd just, catch on fire. And a lot of it was a maintenance issue. Oh, and there was a whole
go nowhere.
There was a whole line of problems with the Wranglers for a while that they would catch on fire. So yeah, it's like all kinds of cars had this problem on a regular basis.
Yeah, and again, maybe this is extreme, but if you're prepared for an emergency, perhaps you can help somebody else.
Why don't we move into some less car stuff? Okay, go ahead. And
Ian says, I feel like prepping your Cachemobile for the ET highway is a whole nother show.
It is.
Wet Coaster says quart of wood, jug of paraffin, and a box of safety matches.
Well, actually, didn't we talk about that on the messages when we were talking about doing this show? The whole thing with the candles and the kitty litter. Yeah. Which brought me right back to that 70s show.
I got that a little farther down. So now getting away from just car related, have a first aid kit. It's going to be great for geocachers, right? You want a first aid kit, and you don't want it left in the car. You want it with you on those long hikes, because when somebody falls and injures themselves, I've got a first aid kit in the car. It's 3 miles back. I'll go get it. That doesn't help you. So again, having a first aid kit is not necessarily for you, but maybe for someone else.
Well, I do keep first aid kits in the car, and I've also got the ones that I take with me. So the first aid kits in the car are typically the bigger, better stocked kits, but you always want to have the kit with you on the trail, because you never know when you're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had several occasions where I've had the little kit with me in the car, and it's just some little like cut or whatever. So you do the basic cleanup with the like alcohol wet naps,
an alcohol wipe, and a Band-Aid, and you're good to go.
Yeah. And then when you get back to the car, you'll take it off and redress it and do a better job of cleaning it up and everything. So yeah, it's always a good thing to have. And we already mentioned kind of the flashlight thing, but have an actual flashlight. Have the mini lantern kind of things are awesome, because if you do have to change the tire or check under the hood or whatever, it's amazing at how much light those little things will put out.
Mhm.
And it's all the difference. Your little flashlight that we like to take caching and point at the cache doesn't do so well when you're trying to change a tire.
No, you've got to have somebody hold it, and they get distracted and they're moving it off. But if you have a lantern you can set next to you that will flood the area with light, that's helpful. Have a multi-tool of some sort. You never know what you're going to need. Maybe you need a Phillips head screwdriver. Maybe you need the wrench or a knife. But there's no reason to take a whole toolbox with you anymore. But have that multi-tool at least to make some quick repairs, or open up the bag of chips that you just won't pull apart.
Right. Yeah. And those are the kind of things, so the multi-tools that come in handy when you're at work and realize that you need to do something that you don't have your full toolkit there for.
Mm-hmm.
I have that in my car. I'll go get it.
Francis says, I second the first aid kit as I snipped my finger when I was cutting a zip tie after placing a cache. So.
I thought that was going to go for something else with the bag of chips. Talking about the chips, I think we're getting hungry here. The emergency food, we're cachers. We know how to do this, right? Something that like a granola bar, the energy bars, something that's going to be fairly shelf stable. That's going to be there in case you do get stuck in the car. Mm-hmm. We always talk about the water. It's always a good thing to have with you. For a while, I actually used to carry water in my trunk all spring through fall. Mm-hmm. Not in the winter because, I didn't want it to explode.
Sure.
But I always had that case of water, and rarely did the case of water make it through the season. Yeah, you always start pulling the bottles of water out.
Yep. So, yeah, have some sort of food, some sort of water. We talked about reflective triangles. How about a printed map? Actually having a map.
Yeah,
because
I don't
out carry in the middle of nowhere and you're lost and you no longer have cell coverage. What are you going to do?
Wow, you know what? I just realized how long we've been going. But yeah, I don't carry that much in my glove compartment like we used to, but I always carry the map from usually Ohio and Michigan. Mm-hmm. Has the free maps that you can pick up like every year or every other year.
Yes.
From the tourism, or I think MDOT, the Department of Transit, does it out here. Grab one; it's free. They're awesome.
If you're a AAA member, you can go get maps at any time.
Is that still the case? Because someone was telling me you actually have to pay now.
If it is, it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, it was like a $2 or $3 charge, I think.
But at least have a map of the state that you're in.
Yeah. And if you are going to go like actual off-roading, get the topo maps for that.
Mm-hmm.
But for regular driving, these are awesome. Get you back on the road, give you an idea where you are kind of maps. Oh, Ian says he keeps a reflective jacket in his Jeep, and it's come in handy a few times, both while caching to help. Both while caching and while helping people that wreck their cars in front of him.
Nice. But Ian, you've jumped ahead. We suggest maybe having a blanket of some type and an extra winter coat, but you've already got it covered. So,
well, that's not a winter coat. That's just like your roadside or not roadside, but your like construction vest. That he's talking about.
Got you.
Yeah, and I know a number of people.
I got you. Reflective. Yeah.
Yeah. I know a number of guys around here who wear that every time they go caching.
Mm-hmm.
Because that with a clipboard, no one's going to stop you.
Right.
All right. So we already mentioned the Mylar blanket and the extra coat. You got the traction helper in here too. The kitty litter.
Kitty litter, or maybe a chunk of carpet. You can pull out in an emergency. You can pull out your floor mats, put them under your tires. If you're stuck on snow, sand, something you just can't get a grip on, and it will help a bit.
And then the barbecue lighter, an empty can, and tea light candles. This just always made me laugh.
You know, okay, I have growing up in Ohio, there's been a time where we were stuck in a car. Was the road closed? I think, yes, we were on the freeway and it was a whiteout. And you just can't sit there. I think the three of us were in a car for a couple of hours, and you just can't sit there with the engine running the whole time. You'll run out of gas. So we had blankets and a candle, and I think a candle, yeah, that actually does keep a car warm enough, right? It's not going to be, you're not going to be sweating, but it actually does help to keep the car warm. So I know that's true.
Yeah, and with one of the reasons they say like the tea lights is it's not a big enough flame that it's going to consume too much oxygen and put out too much, soot, or that much of a risk if it happens to knock over. And you still have to be careful with it, but it's not going to be, the big bad hazard.
I wouldn't suggest a Yankee candle in any food scented flavor, because all you're going to do is get hungry.
Donner party, your table is ready. We were talking about that the other day because someone, I can't remember who it was, it might have been my wife, didn't believe me that the Donner party actually consumed each other.
Oh yes, that's a big thing out here.
And it's a Earth cache that you can go and do, or not an Earth cache, a virtual cache.
Virtual cache, okay.
Yeah, which I did when I was out there in which one was it? The Roseville Geo Woodstock? Shoot, now I can't remember. No, it was Sacramento, I think.
Okay.
I think it was the Sacramento one where I went and did Donner's Pass and Reno all at the same time.
Let's see. Ian says they actually make some awesome tread helpers that double as stand-up reflectors things that I found on Amazon. Nice.
I was going to say that is really awesome. I like that idea. We might have to look those up. And then Ron says that when he travels to other states, they stop in the first rest area across the state line. They always have free maps.
There you go.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And, we're geocachers. We're stopping at those rest areas all the time anyway, right?
Right.
And almost every one of those rest areas that has the travel information has a cache. So you're going to be stopping anyway. Grab a free map.
Oh, and the last thing for just regular travel, have comfortable walking shoes. If you're going to work and you're wearing a leather soled shoe, that's terrible for walking in the snow, or ladies, you're walking in heels. Just, have an old pair of tennis shoes in the back that you can slip on in case you need to walk for help.
All right. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. And if you have anything that you want to share with us that we missed, including links to all of the great products that you found on Amazon or other services, send those along to us at geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. That's geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. And we'll share them on the next show because you know what, Chris, I know you never wanted to do another one of these again, but next week...
Don't tell me it is what I think it is.
It is. It's going to be yet another randomized show.
Daryl, you know how I like those.
I know. I'm sorry, but we just have too much good randomness for next week's show. We've got all kinds of feedback. I shouldn't say all kinds. We have mostly feedback right now. We'll hopefully get more good feedback, but we've got a bunch of feedback from our previous shows. Believe it or not, a lot of people commented on last week's shows too. But we've got some feedback from last week's show. We've got news about the GPS-3 satellites, and we have news about Galileo taking SOS.
Interesting. I'm sorry. I've got a song running through my head.
I kind of...
Galileo Figaro.
Oh, no, I was going for the other one. All right. So tune in for that show next week.
And until then, check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show's copyright 2020 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with a Cachemobile.